Angel Gurria, Secretary General, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, who's going to make the opening remarks.
Dear Kailash, Minister, I have a long speech that was prepared for the occasion, which I will not read. But everybody has Kailash's book in your table. Let me just invite you to take a look at page 9, which says, "Those who sit the whole night, lamenting the darkness, often fall asleep by the time of dawn. But the people who find a way to light a lamp with a spark of their self-confidence and creativity, no darkness can ever diminish their shine. The light from a tiny lamp can keep the hope of a great sunrise alive." Kailash, this is for you. I'm quoting from your book. Listen, this is the idea that is driving us. This is what is animating our spirit today, because obviously the job is tough. Now, I have ascended in terms of the inspiration, and now let me get a little bit down in terms of the implementation, although, as we say at the OECD, not necessarily in that order. Okay. Now, let me say we have a number of instruments, we have a number of tools that we can use in order to help this. But first and foremost, and we discussed this in the breakfast today, we need to measure in order to manage. How big, how bad, how deep, how broad, is the problem, and where, and who is doing what to whom, is the best way to address it effectively. So what we have said is that we are going to embark in an effort of measuring. First, what the problem looks like. Second, we are going to engage in an effort where we are going to create a place, a forum where we can then exchange all the best practices. That is part metrics, but also part anecdote, part experience, part what is better, what is worse, what is more expensive, what is cheaper, what comes first in terms of... Because it's about public policies. Not even the most enlightened, the most persevering NGO, the most persevering and the inspired leadership like Kailash's can do by himself or by the group that supports him the whole job without appropriate public policies. He has been able to modify legislation, but then isn't there that practically everywhere, abuse, slavery of children, violence against children, is it not a crime practically everywhere? But then, are we okay on enforcement? The question of enforcement, of course, leaves a lot to be desired. We were talking at the table, a very small fraction of the budgets that are used to fight organized crime and drugs, for example, could go a long way. Not that I'm advocating that we take it away, but a little bit more on the side of the public policies could actually do wonders if well applied when you're talking about the abuse of children. So it's about knowing what's going on. Second, it's about exchanging best practices so that we do not all have to wait for the inspiration. Always somebody already thought about it before, and always probably they have something that we could adopt. Then it's about policies. And then it's also about taking it to the different bodies. I mentioned that we had launched an inclusive growth initiative where we had taken the mayors, champion mayors for inclusive growth. We're now looking at whether we can recruit, champion CEOs for inclusive growth. Education is part of the inclusive growth story. Children is part of the education story. And then all the things that Kailash is fighting for are part of that story. So the question then is, let's get the proper networks and the proper interested parties in order to engage. And last but not least, how about taking it to, as I suggested in the panel, to the G7, to the G20, to the APEC, to the Alliance of the Pacific, etc., in the different governance structures that have cropped up in the world in order to deal with or attempt to do governance issues of the world. Can we take it to them so that we put it in the crosshairs of the great leaders of the world so that they can push it, so that they can promote it, so that it becomes a principle that is adopted not by us here, but let's say by the G20. And therefore we can push it. We can also get more funding and more resources, by the way. There are practical implications when you get it to this level of visibility, because then it's easier to push the policy issues that are pertaining here. So our message is that of St. Francis Xavier, an early Portuguese Christian missionary to India, that said, give me the child, I'll give you the man. Let me paraphrase him by saying, let me the deprived child, give me the ill-treated child, give me the abused child, give me the disadvantaged child, and I will give you the man. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And just to make this panel more women-friendly, I'd like to invite Madam Lema Bowie to please come up and join us on stage. Madam Lema Bowie. I'd now like to request Her Excellency Loreno Castillo de Varela, First Lady of the Republic of Panama and UNAIDS Special Ambassador in Latin America, to say a few words.
Hello, good afternoon. Buenas tardes, Su Excelencia Piyush Goyal, Ministro de Estado del Gobierno de la India, Honorable Señor Kailash Satyarthi, Premio Nobel de la Paz 2014 y fundador del movimiento Pashpan Bachayao Andolan, y Honorable Señora Tawayakol Karma, Premio Nobel de la Paz 2011, Honorable Señor Ángel Gurria, Secretario General de la Organización para la Cooperación Económica y del Desarrollo, Honorable Señora Emi Mahmoud, líder de la Juventud y mujer inspiradora, Honorable Señor J.S. Quejar, juez de la Corte Suprema de la India, líderes y laureados participantes de esta cumbre, invitados especiales, jóvenes, invitados, niños, señoras y señores. A lo largo de estos 2 días hemos escuchado y reflexionado sobre nuestro papel en el futuro de la niñez y la adolescencia en nuestros países y en el mundo, y el futuro de nuestras niñas y niños. Y como madre comprendo perfectamente la importancia de buscar la felicidad para ellos. Pero alcanzar la felicidad para las niñas y los niños no siempre es fácil. La compasión es una virtud que escasea en tiempos donde lo que nos rodea es buscar la individualidad. Es decir, es tiempo de selfies. En un momento en donde la individualidad es algo que nos recoge a todos. Cuando comenzamos nuestro proyecto de gobierno en el 2014, tomamos la decisión de concentrarnos en las personas, en ayudarles a construir un mundo mejor a ellos, menos peligroso, menos difícil, pero sobre todo más humano, more human. Fueron muchos los desafíos que encontramos con nuestra llegada al gobierno. Un país fuertemente dividido, un país donde las personas sentían que no eran tomadas en cuenta, donde su valor era muchísimo menor que el de las construcciones de los grandes edificios o de los logros financieros. Vengo de un país que se siente orgulloso de sus orígenes. Somos un país en donde convergen culturas, en donde somos un mix de culturas, en donde el negro, el indio, en donde todos somos iguales. Las personas se sentían que no eran tomadas en cuenta. Vengo de un país en donde sus orígenes y su idiosincrasia ha sufrido mucho, pero también ha tenido un papel importante para mejorar sus vidas de los nacionales y donde muchas personas que han huido de otros países han hecho de Panamá su hogar. Panamá es un país donde las personas pueden vivir en paz y en tranquilidad después de venir de dictaduras, de guerras, donde acogemos y protegemos a quienes se sienten perseguidos en sus países y angustiados. Mi trabajo como primera dama de la República consiste en asegurar que las decisiones que se toman en este país, en Panamá, las personas, la gente, sea lo más importante, que sientan en sus corazones que son nuestra razón de existir. Hemos escuchado muchas veces que los niños son el futuro, pero en la práctica se ha demostrado que muchos no lo creen. Para volver realidad su futuro se necesita que los niños tengan una infancia plena y que construyan valores, que aprendan con nuestro ejemplo, no porque tengan que memorizarlo en la escuela. One of my dreams, uno de mis sueños, es que I want children's rights to be about something we all want to live normally every day, that we all live normally every day, not something we have to fight for. Do you understand what I'm saying? Not something it's only like written on the rights of children, instead of something it's normal in our world. Construir valores y practicar nuestras virtudes es tarea que afrontamos día a día de manera valiente, dando voz a quienes no la tienen, giving voices to people that don't have voices, y mostrándoles que sus aspiraciones y sueños pueden convertirse en realidad y que pueden transformar el mundo. In a world that, and now I'm going to get out of the speech that we wrote, in a world where there's so much pain and suffering, there is so much hate, there is so much division everywhere we go, there's so much ego. Me being a first lady, everywhere I go, meeting so many people, so many leaders with so many agendas, so many first ladies with so much egos, and so many titles, and so many kings and queens, and so many protocols. What's up with that? Seriously. Kailash, thank you so much for inviting me here with so many normal people. Thank you. Thank you for making me feel that after all, this is where we belong, that after all, there is goodness in the world, and there is normal in the world, and we have to raise our voices louder. Do not be afraid. And there is goodness in the world. And you know what? Every time there's a child, let's smile more. Let's hug more. Let's give ourselves more peace. Let's care. And let's not be afraid of giving ourselves more to the world. Give more love, please. The world needs more of us. The darkness cannot win, and the hate cannot win. And there's a campaign that I go everywhere with my butterflies of zero discrimination, and it's real. It's because we are all equal, we are all the same, and we are all one soul. Please, let's take it seriously. And all the children, all the young people that is listening, they were asking about power. That is the real power. The real power is love. And let's take it everywhere we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I'd now like to request Madam Tawakkol Karman, Nobel Peace Laureate 2011, to say a few words.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon all of you. Again, like what I said yesterday, that before 27 years, on 20 November 1989, Child Rights Conventions was adopted according to the UN General Assembly resolution. And the CRC recognized that each child has genuine rights to live and called state parties to take all appropriate legislative, administrative, social, and educational measures to protect the child from all forms of physical or mental violence, injury, or abuse, neglect, or negligent treatment, maltreatment, or exploitation, including sexual abuse. However, following all these years, we shall feel sad, where no positive change has occurred in any of the Convention's articles. And instead of declining violence rates against children, it has increased. It has increased, where wars and conflicts from one side and policies and malpractices from other are targeting children and women mainly, the matter that makes it difficult to predict good future for the world. It's really frustrating to see thousands of children die around the world due to armed conflict. It's really frustrating that according to the UNICEF report, malnutrition causes 3.1 million deaths annually among children, which is equal to 45% of all death cases for children below 5 years of age. Also, 1 child out of 4 suffer from stunted growth, and 1 out of 3 children in developing countries. Other dreadful facts in this regard is the increase in children mortality in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, where 4 in 5 children die before reaching age 5. And the rate is doubled among children born in poor communities compared to those born in rich households. Dear friends, I'm not here to count all violations and crimes inflicted on children. They are many, unfortunately, and numerous. But me and you are here to explore means that could lead into achieve safe and secure childhood and to ensure children's social, economic, and cultural rights, including the right to live in dignity and right of education and health, the right in playing and entertainment, and to provide applicable conditions that allow children to grow in normal and dignified life. Dear sisters and brothers, we cannot talk about child rights while all human rights are missed. The route to complete child rights as provided for in the Child Rights Conventions and other related conventions passes through establishment of democratic society that guarantee rights and freedom. Then only we may talk about child rights. Our struggle shall be directed to build the freedom and democracy community of good governance and anti-corruption. In communities that corruption prevails, where its wealth and resources are controlled by individuals and the family, children lose their rights. And the household were forced to send their children to labor market instead of providing them with food, medicine, protection, and care. Combating corruption, providing transparency, accountability, and rule of law are the means that will ensure child rights. In today's world, combating corruption is not national issue that countries shall fight individually. Rather, it's globalized human battle that all humanity need to fight collectively. Also, combating money laundering and restoring stolen assets is an important strategic issue to preserve nations' potential and to resource from theft by rulers. Thereby, we will protect child rights directly and indirectly. Dear all, we cannot talk about child rights under the wars and local conflict. Achieving sustainable peace is a precondition to ensure child rights during wars and conflict, where children are the primary victims whose rights are widely violated. Child recruitment, displacement, and famine that impact their families and depriving of education. All these are consequences of lack of sustainable peace. Our continuous struggle for sustainable peace and to stand against war are prerequisites to ensure children's rights. Allow me, dear sisters and brothers, to remind you that no peace without justice, and achieving justice is the route to achieve peace. Those who sacrifice justice for peace lose both peace and justice. By justice, I mean here to stop tyranny's war against their people and to bring violators and oppressors of rights and freedom among rulers and tourist groups to justice locally and internationally. Finally, I will speak about my country. In my country, Yemen, children's situation is very, very bad, was very bad, and still very bad. was very bad under the rule of the ousted president, the dictator Ali Saleh, and now is very bad under the rule of his coup and the coup of militia of al-Houthi. Militia of al-Houthi, unfortunately, now they led coup against us, against the peaceful revolution on September 2014. Yemeni children have witnessed all forms of repression and exploitation that requires an international investigation to these violations and to penalize perpetrators of these violations. Houthi militia is recruiting children and sending them to fight against legitimate constitutional government in clear disrespect to children's safety, and this should be condemned unequivocally. Similar situation that is happening now in Syria. Situation of Syrian children is not better, where Bashar despotic regime is still abusing children in its quest and to punish his opponent among Syria. Syrian people who aspire to freedom and salvation from tyranny. Bashar regime is abducting children and violate their rights to humiliate and blackmail their families. Children in Syria will not recover from those wounds and oppression unless and until Bashar al-Assad regime is overthrown. And final thing, again, we should be one hand for our children. We should raise our voice and our act. Again, our act. And our act must be comprehensive. Let's work together for a better world without tyranny, without corruption, a better world that guarantees justice. Justice for all the people around the world, and for children at the beginning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd now like to request Madam Lema Bowie, Nobel Peace Prize winner, to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Kalash and his team. I want to say a big thank you for organizing this event, especially in a world today where the issues of children, their rights, and some of the challenges they face are being swept under the carpet. I would like to say thank you to all of the global leaders and other Nobel laureates who came to make this occasion a success. I grew up in a community where it was a community. Earlier on, I spoke about being a daughter, one of 5 daughters. I have a grandmother that I believe taught me my 101 feminism. She taught me as a woman that I could do anything that I wanted to do. Example being, we had 4 cousins who were boys and we were 5 girls. Every time we came and said someone punched us, she said, go and fight for yourself. Several times in a year, she would give us $1 and say, it's for you. It took me a long time to realize that she was teaching me how to grow my own money. Going to school was very important to her, to my father, and to my mother. In that community we lived, we as children were never allowed to see dead bodies. If someone died in your house, they took you to another house. I'm giving this example because I think I live in an ideal world where we were protected as children. That cannot be said of children in our world today, including in my own community. It's important for all of us to step up and stand up and use our voices and everything that we have to change the tide for children from bonded laborers to girls in child marriage, to those who are trafficked for the purposes of sex. My theory is that our world is upside down. It's going to take a lot of us to turn the world back upright. Today, Jody Williams, another Nobel laureate, said, it's a bad word when people say nonviolence, when people want to talk about things that are important. It's easier to rally and mobilize people for war than it is to mobilize people for good. But I think it's important now, even if we're few, to shine our light on the plight of children, from child soldiers issues to other issues that are not being highlighted. Let's not sit back. We need to do this in order to leave a good world for people, young people who are prepared to take over. Eleanor Roosevelt, the former American First Lady, said once, do one good thing that scares you every day. I've taken this and I've turned it around, and I tell people I've done it with her permission. It's important for all of us, especially now as we talk about the rights of children and the will for children to go into their future, knowing that there will be a future for them. Each and every one of us, I charge you to do one good thing for a child every day that everyone else is scared to do. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd now like to invite BBC's most influential young woman of 2016, Emmy Mahmood, to speak to us.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. So my name is Imtithal. I'm called Emmy. I'm from Sudan and Philadelphia. So I was 10 years old when I learned what the word genocide meant. It was 2003, and my people were being brutally attacked because of their race. Hundreds of thousands were murdered, millions displaced, our nation torn apart at the hands of its own government. My mother and father immediately began speaking out against the crisis, but I didn't really understand it, except for the fact that it was destroying my parents. One day, I walked in on my mother crying, and I asked her why so many people in our family were passing away, why we were burying so many people. I don't remember the words my mother chose to explain genocide to her 10-year-old daughter, but I remember the feeling. We felt completely alone, as if no one could hear us, as if we were essentially invisible. That's when I wrote my first poem about Darfur. I wrote poetry to convince people to see and hear us. And that's how I learned the thing that changed me. It's easy to be seen. I mean, look at me. I'm a young African woman with a scarf around my head, an American accent on my tongue, and a story that makes even the most brutal of Monday mornings seem inviting. But it's hard to convince people that they deserve to be seen. I learned this in my high school classroom one day when my teacher asked me to give a presentation about Darfur. I was setting up the projector when a classmate of mine came up to me and said, "Why are you doing this? Why are you talking about this? Can't you think about us and how it'll make us feel?" My 14-year-old self didn't know what to say to that girl, or how to explain the pain that I felt in that moment, or that I feel in every moment we're forced not to talk about this. Her words took me back to the days and nights on the ground in Darfur, where we were forced to remain silent, where we didn't speak over our breakfast tea because the warplanes overhead swallowed any and all noise. Her words took me back to those days where we were forced not only to remain silent, but we were forced to believe that we don't deserve to exist. Oppression looks like someone pointing the barrel of a gun at you, everyone you love, and everyone who would dare to help you. And oppression looks like you believing that that gun belongs there. When oppression is internalized, you start to believe the things that they tell you. You start to believe that you don't deserve to be heard or seen, that you're basically invisible. This is when the magic happened. So I set up the projector, and as I began to speak, despite this renewed feeling that I didn't belong there, that I shouldn't break the silence, and as my classmates began to listen, my fear ebbed away. My mind became calm, and I felt safe. It was the sound of our grieving, the feel of their arms around me, the steady walls that held us together. It felt nothing like a vacuum. I choose poetry because it's so visceral. Because when somebody is standing in front of you, mind, body, and soul, saying, "Witness me," it's impossible not to become keenly aware of your own humanity. The most important thing you can give a child is a reminder that they have a voice, that they are loved, and that you will listen to and support them. Every day, I experience the power of witness, and because of that, I'm whole. So now I ask, will you witness me? Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna start this poem now. They hand me the microphone as my shoulders sink under the weight of this stress. The woman says, "The 1 millionth refugee just left South Sudan. Can you comment?" I feel my feet rock back and forth on the heels my mother bought, begging the question, do we stay, or is it safer to choose flight? My mind echoes through the numbers. 1 million gone, 400,000 dead in Darfur, 2 million displaced, and this lump takes over my throat as if each of those bodies just found a grave right here in my esophagus. Our once country, all south and north and east and west, so restless the Nile couldn't hold us together, and you ask me to summarize. They talk about the numbers as if this isn't still happening, as if 500,000 didn't just die in Syria, as if 3,000 aren't still making their final stand at the bottom of the Mediterranean, as if there aren't entire volumes full of fact sheets about our genocides, and now they want me to write one. Fact, we never talked over breakfast because the poor planes swallowed our voices. Fact, my grandfather did not want to leave home, so he died in a war zone. Fact, a burning bush without God is just a fire. I measure the distance between what I know and what it's safe to say on a microphone. Do I talk about sorrow, displacement? Do I mention the violence, how it's never as simple as what you see on TV, how there are weeks' worth of fear before the camera's on? Do I tell her about our bodies, how they are 60% water, but we still burn like driftwood, making fuel of our sacrifice? Do I tell her the men died first, mothers forced to watch the slaughter, that they came for our children, scattering them across the continent until our homes sank, that even castles sink at the bite of the bomb? Do I tell her about the elderly, our heroes, too weak to run, too expensive to shoot, how they would march them, rifles at their backs, hands raised into the fire, how their walking sticks kept the flames alive? It sounds too harsh for a bundle of wires and an audience to swallow. Too relentless, like the valley that filled with the putrid smoke of our deaths. Is it better in verse? Can a stanza become a burial shroud? Will it sting less if I say it softly? Will the pain leave when the microphone does? If you don't see me cry, will you listen better? Why does every word feel like I'm saying my last? 30 seconds for the soundbite, and now 3 minutes for the poem. I feel my tongue go dry, the same way we died, becoming ash, having never been coal. My left leg goes numb, and I realize that I locked my knees, bracing for impact. I never wear shoes I can't run in. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, Thank you so much. I've told you about oppression, but I also want to tell you a little bit about resilience. Resilience looks like being the granddaughter of a woman who never learned to read or write because women were not allowed to do that in my country. So being her granddaughter and then graduating from Yale this past May. When education transformed my existence. So when we say we're fighting for education or we're fighting for our lives, we're fighting against being forgotten. Today I'm lucky to be one of those people who wasn't forgotten, but if we don't talk about this, so many children will be. So I brought with me these, the children actually spoke, which is the incredible thing about where we are right now and today, so thank you for that. The children are asking you for 3 things for now. So the 3 recommendations that the youth delegation came up with are the need for quality and free education for a better future. Governments are needed so that we can have equal protection for all children around the globe. They also asked for youth and child-friendly spaces to be developed, and that you, the world leaders, must listen to and work with children and youth to come to solutions so that they can capacity build, to participate and make decisions. The youth also asked you to listen to the children and work with them to come to solutions for access to health and reshaping systems and secure community support. I've seen so many people here today that are so much younger than me. And I know I'm 23, so I can't really call anyone younger than me, but I'm so impressed by the children that I got to spend time with. And I want to tell you now that standing here is very personal and important to me. And I promise you that I'll carry this and that I will carry you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy, for that very touching speech. I'm sure everybody was moved here. And now I have great pleasure to invite Mr. Piyush Goyal, Honorable Minister of State, Independent Charge, Power, Coal, New and Renewable Energy and Mines, Government of India, to deliver his speech.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Our very own most respected Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, Nobel laureate who has made all Indians very, very proud. Thank you for making this happen. Really, really a wonderful thought that you brought to. And truly, I'm sure the Nobel Prize is meant to be given so that people don't stop working and don't stop doing the good work that they are recognized for. It's only an encouragement to do more. And you have, all of you have truly, truly justified the Nobel Prize that the world has bestowed on you. Thank you, Kailash. Most respected Her Excellency Lorena Castilla de Varela, First Lady of the Republic of Panama. Madam, thank you for your emotional address. It was truly touching. And I thought the pain and suffering and hate in the world that you articulated about can only change when one looks at this season of Christmas. Christmas, which epitomizes love, hope, passion, and compassion. And in that sense, I think it's very timely that we are all assembled here today to take this message of hope and compassion to the rest of the world from New Delhi. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for your kind words. Mr. Angel Gurria, the Secretary General of the OECD, who's demonstrated a strong commitment of the developed world and the developing world to make a difference to future generations, to make a difference to the children of the world. Madame Tawakkol Karman, the Nobel Peace Laureate of 2011, who really brought out very, very articulately that there can be no compromise with justice. And I'm so delighted because really, ever since the French Revolution, I think the world has accepted that justice is non-negotiable. And we all subscribe to that, we all recognize and respect that. Madame Lema Gbowee, the Nobel Peace Laureate also for 2011, who, with her actions, with her work, has shown that the women of the world, the women of substance in this world, are able to truly make a difference to the destinies of their nation. Thank you very much for being here with us and for sharing your thoughts with us. And of course, the most charming Emtihal, Emmy, I believe we can call you Emmy. The most charming Emmy Mahmood, most influential young woman or child, or both. But very, very emotional, very concerned citizen of the world, somebody who shows us the light for the future. And before I begin, I just want to share something I just told Kailash ji, that there is God with this conference. There's God looking from up there at this conference, at this meeting of minds, meeting of thought leaders today. Because at 12:30, just about 25 minutes ago, on my mobile phone, I receive a message. You know, there are these messages, people keep sending messages with some good thought of the day. And I receive a message which I'd like to share with you. It says, we must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. And I didn't expect anything so particularly relevant for today's engagement coming to me while I'm sitting there, which in some sense summarizes the effort that Kailash ji and his team have tried to put forth through the Laureates and Leaders for Children Summit 2016. And I must compliment you and all the organizers of this wonderful initiative, Kailash ji, for, in some sense, helping everybody articulate and also reflect on this very important subject over the course of this 3-day conference. I think you started on Human Rights Day very appropriately, and we are concluding today. But I hope this conclusion is only the first step towards a large engagement worldwide to make this mission possible, to make this dream happen. And you have not only my personal support, but the commitment of the Government of India to be the change that we all want to see in the world. And we'd love to participate, we'd love to wholeheartedly engage with you, your team, with all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen who have assembled here to truly impact the destiny of the world. We can articulate we can surely make sustainable development goals, bring out what needs to be done to change the future of children. We can say we are against child labor, against trafficking, against slavery, against forced labor. We'll protect our children from violence. We'll look at inclusive and quality education for all our children, equitable education. But why 2030? 14 years is too long a time. If we have to make a difference, we have to make it now. And in some sense, I draw a small parallel, if you will permit me, to the Sustainable Development Goal to reach power for all in the world by 2030 again. Sadly, I think we are all victim of our own limitations to think big, to think bold. When we came into government 2.5 years ago, and then the engagement, I had the privilege to be a part of the sustainability conference looking at how we'll take energy for all the people of the world. And I came back to India and I reflected, why should we wait for 2030? These 14 years are truly important for the children of the world, for the people of the world. And should we have to wait for 14 or 15 years to reach power for all? And that's when the Honorable Prime Minister decided we'll take power to every home, to every child in this country by 2022, and not wait for 2030. And on a personal note, I've made it my mission of life to see if we can take energy, electricity, to every home by 2019, so that no child remains disprivileged, remains illiterate, or doesn't get an equal opportunity to education, equal opportunity for a better quality of life. And I do hope I will receive the blessings of this summit in order to be able to achieve my mission, my goal, my dream, and hopefully not by 2022, but by 2019. A small debt that I think our generation owes to the children of this world, a small debt that to my mind is long overdue in terms of its repayment. In fact, this noble endeavor by all of these Nobel laureates to bring to fore something which Mahatma Gandhi had once articulated. Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, once said, in a gentle way, you can shake the world. And I think that's what is attempted to be done during the course of this summit. Let's shake the conscience of the world. Let's tell the world that, look, we all care, we all have to work together to make a difference to the rest, to the people, to the children of our times. And in that sense, the coming together of so many NGOs, corporates, thought leaders, world statesmen and women, persons of substance in one gathering over 3 days is truly heartwarming. It gives me a lot of encouragement that we are living in a world that cares, that is going to make a difference to the lives of the children of today, and hopefully make them better citizens of the world in the days to come. In fact, each one of you in your own way have come with rich knowledge and with a desire to end child exploitation. It could be through the role of business, through the role of youth, by tapping innovation and technology, by creating child-friendly communities, better education, quality of life. And in one sense, each one of us can contribute, and no contribution can be undermined. I think everybody assembled here, even the camera persons who are recording this conference, will contribute to this effort as they relay this to the rest of the world, to the people of the world, take this message of this summit. So every person, and in India there is this saying that every squirrel contributes to the larger mission, to the larger goal of life. And in some sense, we are all those squirrels who are all going to collectively make a difference to the future. I'm reminded of what John Quincy Adams, the illustrious former US president, had once said: if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, and become more, you are a leader. And I'm delighted that each one of the leaders assembled here today wishes to do more for the children, wishes to truly impact the lives of every child in this world and make a difference to the millions who have remained deprived, to the over 10 million who have been affected by terrorism, who have been displaced because of conflict in the world. And I'm sure the collective effort of all the people in this summit can only make good, can only do some good for the world, for the rest of humanity. In fact, the program being launched this afternoon by the Honorable President of India, 100 million for 100 million, is in some sense reflective of the participatory nature of this effort. For those of you who studied a little bit about Indian culture and Indian way of living, we have a festival called Raksha Bandhan. It's called Rakhi also. What do we do on Raksha Bandhan? Every girl ties a small thread on the hand of her brother. It's a thread, a bonding of love, of affection, of care. And the brother pledges to protect his sister all through her life. Now, in some sense, this is what we have inherited. Thousands of years of history and culture has brought this Raksha Bandhan to India. And it's a deep emotional bonding through the thread that the sister ties to the brother. And it's without any expectation in return. This bond has no quid pro quo. It's a bond of love. It's a bond of protection. It's a bond of oneness. And I think that's the message in some sense that the 100 million for 100 million is trying to propagate to the rest of the world. It expects to motivate youngsters to speak up for the youth who have not been as privileged, maybe marginalized. I know there was an effort some time back that we run night classes for the marginalized section of children who are not privileged to get quality education. I felt that was no solution. I felt what we really need to do is get them into the same classroom as the privileged children so that we can really create an egalitarian society, a society where one child cannot be differentiated from another because of the prejudices that maybe we have built up and the walls that we have built up in society. After all, when the child is born, he is not born with these prejudices. A newborn child does not know what rich and poor is. A newborn child does not know what privilege or disharmony or any of these limitations that we confront and our children confront as they grow up. It's something that is learned, that's ingrained in the child over the years of his childhood. We'll have to address this at the very root. It'll have to be good parenting, it'll have to be good value systems in the child in his early years that'll have to make a difference. And in that sense, engaging children to make a difference to the life of another child is truly the right way to create more equal opportunity and to create a better society for tomorrow. I'm delighted that Kailashji has taken up this very massive task. And of course, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And I'm sure this one step today is going to go down in history as a landmark, a milestone year, a milestone day, where people of the world engaged and decided that we will impact the future, we will make a difference to the future, and not just expect presidents and prime ministers alone to make a difference, but each one of us will act and act to be the change agents for the future. In fact, if we don't stand up for children, then really we can't stand for anything much. We've had a lot of engagement on climate change. We've had a lot of dialogue and discussion and agreement around the world to bring about a better environment for the future generations. And I do believe that all of us who are here today are only trustees of the world, of the planet. We all have a duty to leave behind a better world than the one we have inherited. And I think every child whose life we can impact for the better, every child to whom we can contribute a better, brighter future, a better life, is always going to remember that this generation of all of us did our role honestly, played our part to our capacity, and will not think back, look at history, and regret what we have left behind for the next generation. In our own country, we have been trying to make a difference. We had the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao campaign. We're trying to save the girl child and teach the girl child, so that every child, particularly the girl children who have remained deprived for several centuries in this country, are protected, are given quality education and a better life for the future. Because we do believe the girl child can play an instrumental role for a better future for this planet, for the people of the world. We've also engaged on the Education for All program since 2001 to 2001, when Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, a person who has mentored me from my childhood, had embarked on the Sarva Siksha Abhiyan. And over the years, over the last 15 years, we have certainly been able to take education to the children of India, but have to now embark on the next major initiative to improve the quality of education and provide every child with an equal, good quality education so that they can be better citizens of tomorrow. In fact, we celebrate Teachers' Day on the birthday of Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, the former President of India, who had said, the end product of education should be a creative man who can battle against historical circumstances and adversities of nature. And who better than all these young Nobel laureates than Emmy to show us the path, to tell us how good quality education can make a difference to the lives of the children in our times. India is also battling with terrorism, just as some of the other countries, particularly in the Middle East. We have had a situation where schools were burned down in Kashmir only a few months ago. But despite that, I'd like to salute the grit and determination of the children of Kashmir, who came out in large numbers. Over 95% of the children came in to appear for their board examinations, despite the adversity, despite the difficulties that they were facing in the face of terrorism. And I'm quite sure that this grit and determination of the children is what will show the path, will lead the way for the 100 million for 100 million program to be a grand success. As Malala Yousafzai, the co-Nobel laureate with Kailash had said, one child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. I think one step that each one of us in our life take can help us change the world. And I hope this summit will help our children, the children of our world, fulfill their dreams for a brighter and better future. My best wishes to each one of you. Thank you for coming from all parts of the world to be with us in India, to share the agony of the children, to participate in this noble endeavor, and particularly commit to contribute your time, your energy, your effort, your thoughts, and actively participate in this wonderful mission, which to my mind is the defining mission of this world, changing the lives for the better of every child in this world. And I do hope, Kailashji, you will set the trend not to wait for 2030, but to make this happen real fast, to make it happen within an early period of time, so that we can show the world that it is not compulsion which drives change. It is conviction and commitment which will be the change agent for this world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for those very inspiring words. I would now like to invite Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, Nobel Peace Laureate, to share with us the key outcomes of the Laureates and Leaders for Children Summit 2016 and the way forward.
The tone has already been set. There is no much time left. There is no much time left to close this session. I have been receiving small slips that the press conference time has gone and we can just go there for a few minutes. But anyway, I will take few moments. Thank you, Piyush ji, and thank you all my colleagues and friends sitting on the dais. I'm trying to compare 2 days because this day is very personal for me. It makes me very emotional. No one could dare to think, and no one could ever execute to bring the most compassionate moral authorities, a large number of Nobel laureates, such people with compassion and vision and wisdom and experience for the cause of most neglected, most ignored children on the earth. And yesterday and today, listening to you, meeting to you, especially with my young friends, my children, I feel very, very empowered. I felt empowered in a situation which was much different from now, 36 years ago. A desperate father knocked my door because his daughter was about to be sold to a brothel. And when I called him in, that time I was publishing and editing a journal which was dedicated for the cause of children and women and the most marginalized sections of society. This man's name was Vasal Khan. Vasal came all the way with some reference from someone that I could help in publishing his story that could be used for bringing it before authorities. When I was talking to him, I was shocked to learn it was in 1981. He said he and his newly married wife were taken away from his village to work at a brick kiln. They have been made false promises, but once from their native village in Uttar Pradesh near Aligarh, ended up in Punjab, a place near Sirhind. They were never allowed to leave. They had to live and work in slavery for 17 years. All their children were born and grew up, and many more children were born and grew up there. And one day, mother of 15-year-old Sabo overheard that some agents from brothels are coming to take her away. She realized that the girl is being sold for some 1,000 rupees. The brothel agents were not prepared to pay that price which was demanded by the brick kiln owner. So that evening, girl was saved. But think of the desperate father. He had no way what to do. He jumped into a brick-loaded truck and somehow reached Delhi. He came to know about me through someone when he was wandering on the street for some help. So, my sisters, my brothers, when I was writing his story, I thought that if she was my daughter, what would I do? I was 26 years old. I thought if she was my sister, what would I do? I'm not going to write those articles. I'm not going to just make applications and petitions. I will turn the whole world upside down for my daughter to save. I was in a hurry. I went along with 4 of my friends to rescue her. I told Basel, I'm not going to write your story anymore, I'm going to rescue her. And he said, no, these people are mafia, very powerful criminals. I said, no, she is my sister. I decided it was not an easy operation. We were beaten up. Our camera was taken away. Basel Khan was caught by those people and beaten up badly in front of our eyes. But we ran. And when I was running, I was not alone. I was with 4 friends who shared the dream which I shared, who shared the compassion which I shared. That time, having you and you, I feel that I'm not alone. The highest moral authorities are with me. Yesterday, His Holiness Dalai Lama was here. I have got the support of 34 Nobel laureates from all disciplines, different disciplines, for this idea of launching the strongest moral voice for the cause of such children. And more importantly, in all those 36 years, I have the strongest force with me, and they are youth, they are young people. But that time, I was in hurry, and today I am in hurry. It does not change. It did not change. I cannot wait, and you cannot wait. The world cannot afford to wait. When the girls are taken away from the mother's, father's lap in Syria, in Iraq, by terrorist forces, and they are sold or advanced for sexual slavery in lesser prices than a cigarette pack. And when I read these news or see these pictures, that when these girls are not able to perform well, a 15-year-old girl is buried alive. When I see the photos of the boys, 12-year-old boys are given guns in their hands to kill some suspected traitor. If they can't do, there is pre-prepared grave and these boys are buried alive. I feel they are my children. And I want you to feel that they are your children. That's why we are organizing this summit. This is not simply deliberations. This is the spark, this is the fire with sense of urgency which each one of us have to have. The world cannot afford to linger it on. As my minister said, we cannot wait another 14 years. How many children who are working in mines? How many children who are working in stone quarries? How many children who are dealing with chemicals every day, every minute, will wait the success of sustainable development goals in 14 years because their childhood would be lost. The most precious time of our life would be lost, and that we cannot afford. We have to work now, not tomorrow. In 2 days, I realized in all those plenaries, and I could feel in the voices of my young people, my young friends who were taking participation in yesterday's roundtables and today's questions, that they are prepared. They are ready to march. They are ready to lead the world. We have to respond to their preparedness. We should respond to their readiness. Our young people have all the ability to sit on the driving seat and lead the world for future. I ask my young friends once again before I close. Are you ready to drive this change? Are you ready to lead this change in the world which will make every child free, every child safe, every child healthy, every child in classrooms? Are you ready? Yes. So slowly. Are you ready? Yes. Can you raise both your hands or just one hand? Both your hands. And all these people, all my friends are ready to go. What we need now? I could see my friends who have fought for education in Africa, who fought against all odds in Africa and Latin America. My friend Laliu is smiling. He was a marcher in the World March Against Child Labor, Global March Against Child Labor. And now he is the judge in the Supreme Court of Brazil. And he is an expert in the expert committee of ILO on forced labor. He came all the way to be the part of this march which is beginning today again. My young friends, they're still young, but 20 years ago when they joined me in Togo, in Nigeria, in other places, they decided to come here and join this. This is my strength for 20 years. My very beautiful sister, Rashida from Bangladesh, who had set the global record of mobilizing at least 2 million young people in one country to stand up for education in our campaign for education, she came all the way from there. The young friends from Kids' Rights, they are here. Some of the best brains in the world, like Jeffrey, they are here. My very, 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 very dear sister and my inspiration in the fight against slavery and for justice, Kerry Kennedy, where is she? She is here. And someone who is just indicating to Kerry, Rahul Bajaj. Rahulji, you are here in all this thing. So we are here. The former Prime Minister of Australia and now leading the education movement through Global Partnership for Education is here. I cannot name all of you. Most of you are my very personal friends. Some of are smiling, some of are still in tears, some are angry that what are we waiting for? Everything is here. If I start naming the royals, it was just one letter to Prince Ali from Jordan, and he's here. I met my very beautiful sister, Tabakkul, 3 years ago, and I told that I see that spark and fire in you, and you cannot leave me, I cannot leave you. You have to come, and she is here. And not only her, but the First Lady. First Lady, when she first said that she has a commitment to make her country child labor free, and she said, and her husband, President, said that I wanted to invite you on that celebration when we will make Panama the first child labor free country in Latin America. I said, yes. And Lema is flying all the way from one continent from Africa to America for one day or few hours and then flew back here. My very, very dear sister, I owe a lot for you. You are a powerhouse. So all those people, they are here. The Princess Laurentine. Princess met me recently in in OECD conference, and we had shared a lot of things about the rights of children in a different way, and we decided that we will march on together. And so is the most compassionate leaders, one of the most compassionate leaders in the global politics as well as in the global scene, and he is Angel Gurria. Gurria, you are wonderful. You are wonderful. And yesterday you were telling to the President of India that if Kailash invites someone, no one can say no to him. And President was laughing. Is it true or not, Gurria? Is it true or not? When I invite someone, can you say no to it? No. Can you say no to it? If I invite you to march with us now to make a history where we in our lifetime will read in history books that there was an evil called slavery, which is ended now. There was an evil called illiteracy where the children were not able to attend the schools. That has become the past. We have to make this past. I invite you now. Thank you so much. I invite you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
A big hand for Mr. Satyarthi. Excellencies, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the end of this summit. We thank the Honorable Minister for joining us.